Good afternoon. Good afternoon on a snowy, cold January afternoon. I know that lots of you were making difficult decisions as you were thinking about school today, whether you were going to an NTI day, whether you were closing, or whether you were in session. So we so appreciate that many of you have had the opportunity to join us for the January Superintendents webcast. Let's go to the first slide and we'll jump right into our agenda. Jen, if I can ask you to go to the first slide. Thank you so much. Okay, so our agenda, we have a kind of a short agenda for you today, but I hope it will be filled with lots of information that you find valuable. Jennifer Ginn, who is our Assistant Director of Communications, is going to help us with some Kentucky Department of Education updates. We'll have a legislative update from Brian Perry, our policy advisor. As we all know, the General Assembly has convened for this legislative session, and we are well underway. I think this is week 3, and we are counting those days along with you. Then we're going to have 2 survey results, the information from 2 survey results that will be of interest to you. First, the 2024 Impact Kentucky survey results, and then another survey that's been conducted on educational careers attrition. And Dr. Byron Darnell is going to be joining us for that presentation. We will have Matt Ross, our Associate Commissioner of the Office of Finance and Operations, share us what I believe to be some exciting news about procurement training opportunities that we're going to be making available to our local school districts. And then finally, we'll have an issue that Todd Allen, our Deputy Commissioner and General Counsel from the Office of Legal Services, will be sharing with you about legislative graduation citations. As always, with our webinars, we will have an opportunity for our district representatives to provide questions for KDE staff to answer. And if you can please submit those questions via the Google form that has been provided to you. Next slide, please. I have a couple of updates that I'd like to share with you, something new that we've started here at the Department of Education. As I have been meeting with legislators about various topics that impact Kentucky public schools, I've heard lots of things about, we sure would like to hear more good news of the good news that are happening in our Kentucky school districts. We know that there are lots of exciting things that are happening in each of your districts, the hard work of your staff and your students. But it's all too often that sort of the bad news or things that is not quite as good are the things that seem to capture people's attention. And so we have been thinking of a way that we could provide information to our General Assembly members about the good news. So I'm very pleased to announce, with the help of the communications division here, the start of a new communication. It is targeted strategically for our legislators, and we have entitled it Capital Class Notes. It will go every other week. So it's we started it on Tuesday, January 9th, was our first edition of Capital Class Notes. And it is to share good news of your Kentucky school districts, schools and your district, your staff and your students. We have started out with sort of the top headlines that we had from 2023 to just introduce this concept to our General Assembly members. And then moving forward, we will take information that we're really providing to the general public already, but we want to make sure that it really hits our legislators' desks. So we will do a separate sort of compilation just for them. And you'll see that it really highlights and tries to capture their attention on particular districts that are mentioned in each of our stories. If you have great things that are happening in your district that you'd like to share, please email our Kentucky Teacher inbox. And don't be surprised if you get a call from a legislator asking to know more about the great things that are happening in your district. Next slide, please. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is just an update, a continuing update as we have been doing on the commissioner search. The Kentucky Board of Education, of course, is working with McPherson and Jacobson. They are a national executive search firm that is helping us to identify educators, administrators, and other interested individuals that might be interested in applying for the Commissioner of Education here at the Department of Education. As part of our search and as part of us trying to determine, again, the qualities that we are looking for as a Commonwealth for our next commissioner, the board still needs that thoughtful and candid input from all of our voices across the community in the Commonwealth. So we have created a couple more survey instruments with the help of McPherson and Jacobson, and you can see those links on the slide. One, you could submit feedback through the Kentucky Educators and Administrators Survey or the Kentucky Education Stakeholder Survey. They're kind of targeted at two different groups of individuals. The survey will close on February 16th. That is the last day that we currently will be accepting applications for the commissioner. So we've timed it to in sequence with that. It will take about 5 minutes to complete, and all answers are anonymous. Just keeping you informed also on the job posting itself. You can find that on the McPherson and Jacobson website or on the Kentucky Department of Education website. Of course, our board's goal is to have a new education commissioner that will start work with us on July 1st, and we are well underway. The timeline and all accompanying materials for the search can be found in those job postings as well. That's all I have right now, and I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer again for KDE updates. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Robin. I almost forgot to unmute myself. Can everybody hear me? All righty. So I'm taking Tony's place today, and let's see if I can get my machine working correctly. There we go. All right, so here is our what we've been doing over the past several months, letting you know about competitive grants that are from KDE that are out there. We have an FY24 Reading Diagnostic and Intervention Fund mini grant. Applications are due March 19th by 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Award amount is $40,000, and it's funding to support K-12 students in reaching proficiency in reading and writing through the purchase of high-quality instructional materials aligned to the Kentucky academic standards for reading and writing. We also have an FY24 Preschool Quality Partnership Grant, which those applications are due by 4 p.m. Eastern Time on March 22nd. Award amount up to $300,000. And it's funding to support full-day, high-quality early childhood services for 3- and 4-year-old preschool children. Goal is to expand access or to enhance the quality of existing programs to meet the unique and unmet needs of children and families in communities across the state. So if you need any more information about that, you can find it on the KDE Competitive Grants webpage or by emailing Jennifer Bryant, and you can see her email address down there. Okay, so next is Kentucky students chosen for 2024 U.S. Senate Youth Program. This one is from back in December, so you may have seen it already, but we always want to give a shout out to the students. So we have seniors Ariel Fader of Royal High School in Boone County and Manal Nazir of Kentucky Country Day School in Jefferson County were selected to be part of the national 104 student delegation of the United States Senate Youth Program. Both the students are also going to receive a $10,000 scholarship for undergraduate study from the Hearst Foundation, and they will be representing Kentucky during the 62nd annual Washington Week, which will be March 2 through 9. Seniors Molly Kate Webb of Barron County High School and Owen Graham Cody of McCracken County High School were chosen as alternates to the 2024 program. You still have just a few days for this one. The nomination deadline for the 2024 Robinson Award for Diversity and Equity in Public Education closes on the 19th. So if you have somebody you would like to nominate, please make sure to do it very soon. KBE is accepting awards or accepting nominations for the award. Criteria for the Robinson Award includes, but is not limited to, successful efforts in closing socioeconomic and/or racial achievement gaps, and significantly improving student learning, student achievement, or other measured outcomes among students of color or economically disadvantaged students. You can make nominations through the Google form that is attached in this slide deck, and it should be on the meeting announcement you have in your inboxes. We are accepting applications for USAID's 2024-25 School Ambassador Fellowship Program. The fellowship is designed to improve outcomes for students nationwide by leveraging the voices of outstanding school-based practitioners to inform the USAID on a range of national education policy issues. So ideal candidates demonstrate that they have made significant contributions to student learning and culture through their professional careers. They promote excellence in education through their collaboration and leadership. So the deadline to apply is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, February 5th. You can find more information at the School Ambassador Fellowship Program webpage, which is linked here. And you can read more about it on Kentucky Teacher. You can find all of these stories if you're interested in a little bit more information. All of them are on Kentucky Teacher, so we encourage you to check that out. And lastly, we are seeking public comment on proposed amendments to Kentucky's Carl D. Perkins State Plan. Perkins law requires each eligible agency to develop a 4-year state plan and submit it for approval to USAID's Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. State plan must address a variety of information related to the plan's development and consultation strategies, the implementation of CTE programs and programs of study, accountability and performance measures, as well as other required federal assurances. So you can see the amendments on KDE's Perkins 5 Accountability webpage, which is linked here. CUP public comment period runs through February 12th. And if you'd like to read more about that, again, it's on the Kentucky Teacher website. You'll find it under news. So please feel free to look at that story if you need any more information. And sorry, I know I was moving fast. Next, we have Brian up to talk about legislative update.
Good afternoon. So, as the commissioner mentioned, the session kicked off on January 2nd. So we're just about 3 weeks in, and we'll just kind of go from there. It's been a fairly slow start to the session, so not a lot to talk about today. But we do have a few bills that have been filed, so we will get to those in just a second. Next slide, please. All right, so just some general overview to make sure we're all on the same page. We're about a month away from the deadline for new bills to be introduced in both chambers. So once we get past the end of next month, there will be no new bills introduced, although we could still see some legislation introduced via committee subs and things like that. But generally speaking, we have about a month to go before we'll see what all the bills are for this session. Just as a general reminder, once a bill is filed in either chamber, it has to be assigned to committee and then heard in a committee and then passed out of the committee. Then it goes to the floor of that chamber. If it passes out of that chamber, it goes over to the other chamber and does the same process. Any bills that get out of both chambers go to the governor for action. He can sign them into law. He can veto them in their entirety, or he can allow them to become law without his signature. A simple majority vote overrides his vetoes, a simple majority vote in each chamber. And the only bill that he has line item veto power on will be the budget bill. So they will adjourn sine die. The last day of the session is April 15th. This calendar is a little odd this year because the 13th and 14th are Saturday and Sunday. So the final 2 days are a Friday and Monday, which is a little odd. And there's a link to the calendar just in case you want to make any notes of important dates. So as a reminder, all committees are streamed live on either or via KET or the LRC YouTube site, and those links are there in the PowerPoint. So in terms of what you might want to follow, I would say the most important committees to keep track of are the 2 education committees and the 2 appropriations and revenue committees. So if you don't have a lot of time to watch a lot of committees, you may want to follow those 4 committees and just keep abreast of what's happening in those. The committee schedule, for those that are interested, is there. Committees usually meet on the same day each week at the same time. Late in the session, they can make changes. So you may want to just be aware of that as we get into the latter part of the session. So this is a budget year. So the Assembly will pass a 2-year budget that will go into effect July 1. So we thought we would have the House version by now, but we are still waiting for that to drop. It should be anytime now. You probably saw the governor got out ahead of them again as they kind of broke form last budget session and introduced the House version before the governor's address. So the governor kind of went up to them again this year and brought out his proposal early. That's been filed as House Bill 114. I suspect we will not see the House version filed as amendment, but we'll see that dropped as its own bill like we did back in 2022. And again, the governor does have line item veto power in the budget bill once it gets to him. However, just like any other veto, those can be overturned with a majority vote in each chamber. All right, so that's the calendar. So we'll move on to some legislation that has been filed. Like I said, it's been a fairly slow start. Committees really haven't ramped up yet. We've only had a few committees in both chambers meet for much action at all. So still waiting on things to get rolling, but we do have a few bills of interest to go through. I won't talk about all of these. I really just wanted to put these on here. So if you are making any kind of bill chart or bill tracker and you want to put some of these down, and you may just want to take a look at some of these more in depth because they may ultimately end up impacting districts. That said, none of these have really started to move yet, so keep that in mind. SB 8 is one of the high priority bills for the Senate this year. So the lower the number, the higher the priority, generally speaking. So this would change the way that the Board of Education is formed. Right now, as you know, the commissioners is appointed by the governor, and the Senate confirms the commissioner. The Board of Education members are just appointed by the governor. They're also confirmed by the Senate. SB 8 would change that process and move to an elected board. So all 14 board members would be elected on a 2-year kind of half every 2 years, so 7 and 7. So a big change from how it has been done lately in Kentucky, but nationwide we have, I think, 10 or 11 states that have a fully elected board, have another handful that have a hybrid. So you have some elected members, some appointed. So we'll see where SB 8 goes as we move forward. SB 18 is one that we've had some conversations around over the past year. This would make changes to the school bus specifications. So right now, those are pretty stringent, and this would essentially kind of loosen those a little bit and make them more in line with what some other states around us are doing. There's been a couple of different bills filed that would provide free hygiene products for students. These are what we call repeat bills. They've been filed in the past. There seems to be a little more interest this year, so I wanted to go ahead and put those on the radar. Artificial intelligence has been a topic of conversation during the interim, especially this year, that has kind of come back up several times. Folks talking about the impact of AI already on education, but also starting to really have some conversations about how AI might change education in various ways. So SB 52 was filed by Senator Thomas here in Lexington. It's already been assigned to committee. I think it'll probably get a hearing, if for no other reason than to kind of advance that conversation. There's been a lot of talk about it. So I suspect that either this bill or another AI bill to come will get at least a hearing this year, just to, again, kind of get that conversation continuing. So SB 93 is the anticipated bill relating to DEIB. There's been a couple of versions for post-secondary. This one is the secondary bill. I don't know if this will be the only one, but I suspect that one of the DEI bills will make it across the finish line. So please, be aware of that and pay attention to those as they get filed. And then as we kind of get a little further in the session and see which one is moving, I suspect that we will see changes as it goes along, as we have the past couple of years with some of the more controversial bills. So, and SB 95 is another one. We've seen a couple of these over the years, just different type of maternity related bills. Again, I think this one seems to have a little more interest this year than they have in the past. So it'll be interesting to see if this one or others get some traction. I think there's also the chance that some of these get rolled together. So we sort of have one omnibus bill related to some of these issues. So again, short list of Senate bills, but we only have 38 members, so a lot less Senate bills than we do House bills. So we'll move on to some House bills of interest. Next slide, please. All right, so a couple of these topics you'll probably see jump out because they are ones that we have seen over the past few years. But we also have several new things, several new initiatives that we have not talked a lot about. So I'll try to hit on those. House Bill 36 was filed by Representative Wilner, one of the Democrats in the House. It's related to student resiliency and well-being. We are supportive of this bill. We've had some conversations with the sponsor. We'll see if we get some traction. House Bill 41 is an immunization bill. We saw a lot of these coming out of COVID. So kind of the continuation of those. SB 50 or House Bill 51 is a parental rights bill, specifically relating to surveys, examinations, and the use of RFID in schools. So you may want to take a look at that one. Again, kind of a continuation of some of the parental rights bills that we've seen the last couple of sessions. House Bill 108 is an interesting one. We have several schools around the state that have high populations of English language learners. And this bill is attempting to address how those populations impact the accountability for the school. So obviously there's a lot of federal requirements around this, but we've started having some conversations with folks about that. It'll be interesting to see, where we can go with this. I think a couple of other states have some schools that are kind of piloting some things that have been approved by the feds. So we'll see where House Bill 108 goes in the next couple months. Again, House Bill 19 is a little bit of a repeat bill in the sense that we've seen a couple of these bills over the years, just relating to private school students' involvement in school activities. House Bill 162 is Chair Tipton's numeracy bill. Our Chief Academic Officer, Mickey Ray, has been involved in this one. We're pretty excited about it. It's a follow-up to the early literacy bill last session. And so this is attempting to do the similar things with numeracy. They have taken a lot of care to make sure that this bill would not impact the same grades that the early literacy does. So it would not be kind of stacking that on top of the same teachers. They're implementing that early literacy bill right now. So we'll see if this gets some movement. I think it'll probably get out of the House. We'll see if it can make it across the finish line this year. If it doesn't, I suspect that this will be a relatively big topic of conversation during the interim and heading into next session. House Bill 191 is again a little bit of a continuation of some of what we saw the last couple of sessions relating to or bills relating to programs, events, things that are harmful to minors. This one relates to having those things discussed at school board meetings. So please take a look at that one. House Bill 208 is probably the first of several bills relating to putting a constitutional amendment on the ballot next November related to how schools or charter schools or voucher programs are funded. As a reminder, constitutional amendments have a little bit different threshold to meet. It takes more than just a simple majority in each chamber. It takes a 3/5 vote in each chamber. to get them onto the ballot, and then they would have to be ratified. It would have to be ratified by the voters in November. There's been more than a few constitutional amendments already filed. So I just wanted to point out that I believe we can only have 4 on the ballot next November. So if several start to move, just keep that in mind, that there is a limit to the number that can be put on the ballot in the fall. House Bill 225 is a education cleanup bill. This one has some language that the department worked with the sponsor on, so excited to see this one get filed. I think it would just be some red tape reduction, fairly small items, but every little bit helps. So we'll see if we can get this one heard in the House and then moving in the other chamber. House Bill 227 is another of Chair Tipton's bills. This one I think is a repeat bill from last session and provides a merger process for contiguous school districts. House Bill 245 is one of the first bills we've seen this year relating to teacher workforce issues. This one is relating to the teacher scholarship. I suspect we will see some more items relating to teacher recruitment and retention, specifically in the budget bill. So I'm interested to see the House budget drop and see if there's anything in there for that. If you'll remember, Chair Tipton had an omnibus bill last year, starting all to run together, that kind of got pared down as it went along because it wasn't a budget session. So hopefully a few of those things have been reconsidered as they are crafting the House budget, but we'll see that when it drops. So that's a quick list of the House and Senate bills of interest. Again, none of these bills in the House have been assigned to committee yet. A few in the Senate have, but nothing really moving yet. So as we move forward, we'll start to get a better idea of what's moving and what's not. So stay tuned for that. And next slide, please. So I did want to point out and go ahead and put this on everybody's radar. There have been a lot of property tax related bills filed this year, including a couple of constitutional amendments. I won't run through all of these, but obviously property tax has a big impact on school district funding. So wanted to make sure everyone's aware of these and is starting to follow them and make sure you kind of understand what each of these does and the impact it might have on your districts. So I'm sure that as we move forward and see which ones of these are moving, we'll have more information on them as we go, but wanted to make sure that you all were aware of these at this time. Next slide, please. So finally, just wanted to quickly remind everybody what the department was prioritizing this year. These were our legislative priorities that were approved by the KBE back in the fall. So these are our additional budget requests, or some of them. We had a few others as well. I don't think the universal preschool is going to move forward, unfortunately, this year. Like I said, we'll look to see what supports for the workforce we see in the House budget. We put forward and asked for a SEEK increase based on inflation. Have a big ask for KETS. We'll see, what we get in relation to that in the House budget, and then some additional supports for the early literacy initiatives from last session in the Read to Succeed Act. So those are some of our ABRs. We'll see, when the House budget drops, we'll kind of get a better idea of where some of these things are headed. Next slide. And then in addition to the ABRs that the department put forward, we had a few other items that we've been working on throughout the interim that I just want to make sure everyone's aware of. So our Office of Career and Technical Education has been working diligently on a bill draft with a couple of sponsors, one in each chamber. This would change the way that the CTE funds are distributed. It's not asking for any new funding. The Assembly really upped the amount of funding for CT in the last budget. That allowed them to do some really innovative things for the first time ever. This really just codifies how those funds will be distributed going forward. Hopefully we'll see bills drop in the House and Senate within the next week. Hopefully we can get those filed this week. If not, I think we'll see them next week. So once we have bill numbers for those, we will share those. That statutory cleanup language one is House Bill 225 that I mentioned. The AP language would be in the budget bill, so we'll see when that budget bill drops, if it's in the House version. If it's not, we'll continue to work to see if we can get that language added. And then finally, as you all know, House Bill 678, which streamlined the construction process for the districts that opted in, sunsets at the end of this fiscal year. We are being told that the draft is in process. We've not seen that draft lately, so not sure where that is, but hopefully we will see this get filed this session, because again, without any legislative action, House Bill 678 from 22 will sunset at the end of the fiscal year. So I know that's been a popular provision for a lot of districts. The department supports codifying those changes. We're asking for a few minor adjustments. Nothing, I don't think that it's too crazy. So we'll hopefully see if we can get those included as we move forward. But right now, we don't have a bill number. Hopefully we'll see that bill introduced fairly soon so that we can all take a look at it and provide feedback to the sponsor. That's all I have for now. Please reach out if you have any questions. If you're ever in the annex and would need anything, please let me know. I am there most every day during the session. So thank you very much. That's all I have. Hey, Byron, you're muted.
Yeah.
Mute button resolved. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me say that again. I want to most importantly lead with gratitude for each and every one of you all and the leadership that you provide, especially when we have inclement weather, which just creates even more of a challenge. So just thank you to each and every one of you. I have just a couple of updates with important information to relay today. The first one being the completion of our 2024 Impact Kentucky survey. So again, thank you all for the cooperation and digging into completing this year's assessment results as far as the surveys go. And if you want to advance to the next slide, I can give you just a little bit of an overview. So this is the third administration of the impact survey. So for most individuals, it will be familiar ground in terms of sort of the layout and the information that will be coming to you very shortly. We do see an uptick in participation. So the 1920, which was the first iteration post the TEL survey, so this current survey was the highest at 84% still. Then we had a dip in the 21-22, but as you can see, we saw an increase in participation for this most recent rendering of the survey. So pleased to see that participation is on the rise. If you go to the next slide, please. And just a very general overview of just sort of the response rates to the survey. Most of the information is going to be of interest around your district and the participation, but just overall, this is just a breakdown of the past two survey iterations and the different grade spans that are represented. And then the most important thing, seeing the percent of change over time. So the positive is, with the exception of the middle grades, the 6-8 saw a slight dip. Every other grade span saw a sizable increase in participation. So again, pleased to relay the level of interest and impact at the district and local level. The one at the bottom, the subgroup with no data, so this is certainly completed by individuals, and it is up to the individual to indicate on the survey whether or not they are attaching to a grade span taught. And, you know, that is incumbent upon the individual that is completing the survey, but we're pleased to see the decrease in individuals, a large decrease in individuals not selecting the grade span. So again, getting a little bit tighter information along the lines of the representation across pre-K through 12. Next slide, please. On another positive piece of information, the topic level overviews. These are the top categories that are then broken down by subcategories. And again, for those of you that are familiar with this, you'll recognize the dashboard ability to drill into each of these main topic areas. But just as an overview, sort of a 30,000 foot view, we can see that Kentucky has seen positive change since the 22 iteration of the survey results. So all categories have seen a positive growth, with the most growth coming in the emotional well-being and belonging, which certainly is an area of high concern. Again, there are areas that you will be able to drill down into that will get more granular, but just as an overarching look at the responses, very pleased to relate that all of the primary category headers have seen positive growth since the 2022 survey. Next slide, please. So the important information at the district level, particularly the superintendent level, on January 30th, Panorama is the vendor that oversees the administration and the dashboard aspect of the impact survey. You will receive access to the results from Panorama. Again, this is likely to be familiar with the majority of individuals out there, but if for some reason there is a question or issues getting access to your results, please let us know. But on January 30th, this will come to the superintendent level with the ability to download into PDF and share and speak with administrators about building level results. So there is a period for seeing the results before they go public, which will be on February 6th. And again, in line with all past results, they will be similar and the same. So on February 6th, the public link will be open with public access to the results. But again, January 30th, you will have the preview ability with the district and building results respectively. Next slide, please. So also following up on the professional learning aspect, this will come out again in further communications. Definitely will promote these as we move closer to the dates in which they will be happening, but there will be district support to professional learning as a result of the survey results, the impact results. So please be on the lookout for opportunities to engage in professional learning around the utility and use of the survey results within your district and local schools. Next slide, please. Just a quick update on the Kentucky Educational Careers Attrition Survey update that is in compliance with House Bill 319 from the 23 session. So if you recall, the time has passed, so it's easy to have a lot taking up space in between that time and now. But in July, superintendents received a link to share with the appropriate contact or individual that would oversee this practice, to share with any employee voluntarily leaving a position. We have used the term exit survey as well. So that may be a little bit more familiar in the vernacular, but back in July that was received. This is not a public link. This is for the superintendent or the individual assigned by the superintendent to oversee the process of sending the link to individuals voluntarily leaving a position. In order to maintain anonymity and really for statistical significance at the state level, we have not received enough responses to provide a statewide analysis. We continue, of course, to monitor this and appreciate all cooperation on the district end for having these surveys sent and for the individuals that receive them and complete them. However, districts with greater than 10 responses may fill out a request form and receive responses. So using the common practice for redaction that we use standardly across a lot of reporting information, if a district has more than 10 responses, there is a link to fill out a request for those responses, and we'll make sure that those links are made available. But at this time, we will continue to monitor the input of the survey results and look for the ability to collate them as something useful and meaningful to the state as well as the local district capacity as well. And Jen, I think that may be the final slide there. That it is. All right, I thank you all so much. Commissioner Kinney, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Byron. The Office of Finance and Operations wanted to give school districts a heads up to some upcoming procurement training opportunities. The department frequently gets questions about procurement and procurement related issues. We've also see in some of our monitoring reviews that districts sometimes have challenges related to procurement. So we've partnered with Blue Blood Consulting to offer some procurement trainings, upcoming procurement trainings. These will be no charge and are completely voluntary, but we will be giving the training topics will include state and local uses of KRS 45A, which is the Model Procurement Code, as well as federal procurement and changes to federal procurement. These, we're still trying to work out some of the details about exactly when they will be, and we will be working with our partners, our school districts, and our cooperatives to sort of see how best we can provide these trainings. So we really just wanted to give you a heads up that these were coming and to stay tuned and on the lookout for additional announcements as far as when they will actually be and where they will actually be. They will be most likely in person and some virtual options too. So really just stay tuned and we will be providing additional information. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, superintendents. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I'll have a relatively quick item, and I'm joined by my colleague, Associate Commissioner David Couch in the Office of Education Technology to provide some information to you all as a heads up on information that will be coming to a few contacts within your district. This relates to legislative graduation citations. And for those of you who maybe this is the first time you've heard of those are certificates that are prepared annually by staff at the Legislative Research Commission upon the request of legislators serving the geographic area where your schools sit. And they ask that those certificates be prepared for your 8th and 12th grade students to recognize their accomplishments and to congratulate them on taking the next step, whether it's moving on from 8th grade to 9th grade or graduating from high school. Traditionally, KDE provided the names of those students to the staff at the Legislative Research Commission so that they would have them to prepare the graduation citations upon the request of a legislator or legislators within your district. We provided those to the Legislative Research Commission under the FERPA audit and studies exception. But in auditing our own records here at KDE, realized that that was not the appropriate pathway to be providing that information to the Legislative Research Commission because they aren't really conducting an audit or a study of any program that is occurring. We identified that the best way to provide that information is the directory information sharing exception. But at KDE, we do not know which of your students have opted out of directory information sharing, and that's not an exception that really applies to the state education agency, KDE. Instead, it's more of a tool that's in the tool belt of local education agencies or school districts. So we've worked with LRC to provide a solution so that they continue to get information and can provide these certificates to your students just as a means of information on how they get to your school. The Legislative Research Commission prepares these certificates, and then it's my understanding they physically mail them to the school for the school administrators to hand out to the students there on the ground. But we have prepared an Infinite Campus ad hoc tool, if I'm using the correct language. David Couch will correct me if I'm wrong, that we believe is going to be a very quick tool that can be run in your districts in just a matter of minutes, as I understand it, to gather the data elements, the names of 8th and 12th grade students within your school district, and for you to provide those to a specific location that the Legislative Research Commission has identified. Then they will use that information, again, directory information sharing, to provide these legislative citation certificates for 8th and 12th grade students within your school district. Of course, the students in your district who have opted out of directory information sharing, their data should not be included. That would be filtered out in the ad hoc tool. But just wanted to take a moment to let you all know that that request will be coming to the Infinite Campus point of contact within your district. I believe David Couch has already had some conversations preliminarily with district ed tech leaders within your districts, and also to encourage you all to participate in providing that directory information to LRC. Of course, this is a very valuable way to recognize your students for their accomplishments and to also continue partnerships with state lawmakers who are representing your districts throughout the state. I will pause there and see if David has any additional details related to timelines and more technical details that he can speak to.
Thanks, Todd. Did a good job. We covered it with the district CIOs and ed tech leaders this morning. If yours was not present, we record those, and so you can check that out. We went over more of the technical details. As Todd said, a tool has been created. It only takes about 2 days for us to do that, and it'll be available at the Infinite Campus the day after. You're going to get it in writing. So we're saying it verbally today, but also you're going to get something in writing. And so we want to make sure before you got both of those, before you got the tool, you kind of understand what it was about. So those will be available soon afterward. March 15th is the day that it's due by. There is an email address that we worked with LRC to send it to. It takes about 5 minutes on average to run this. It creates a file. And then your point of contact within the district, which is usually the DPP, but it may be another another person in your district. That is your Kentucky State Information System point of contact, Student Information System point of contact. Actually runs that, and they create the file and they send it to an email address that the legislative folks have identified. It's grad.data@lrc.ky.gov, and we shared that this morning. And then the LRC staff take that information, as Todd said, they combine it with the legislators that have contacted them, whether it be a House rep or senator or a combination of those who they want to go to, and then they create a paper file, a paper certificate, and then they paper mail it to the district. Most usually, sometimes I think the legislator may take it to the district or to the school, but it's a pretty straightforward process. Is we had the LRC main technology person, their CIO, on our webcast, and that's who I've been working with, and I think we have a good solution to this, Todd.
Great, thank you, David. And Commissioner Kenny, I think that wraps us up, and we're back to you.
Thank you so much, Todd and David, and thank you to all my colleagues that were presenters today on the Superintendent's Webcast. I'm going to pause for just a minute and ask Jennifer again if you can check to see if we had any questions that have been collected in our Google form. And while Jennifer is looking for that, of course, you're always welcome to reach out to us at any time with any questions or comments, concerns that you may have that affect your local school district. You can contact myself personally or any of the KDE leadership team. While Jen is looking for that to see if we have any questions we need to answer today, I'd also like to just remind you that although we are in the General Assembly session, we still have a long way to go. And I always share this with superintendents and our district members that the General Assembly really does like to hear from you. They like to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, whether it's about a particular bill that's been filed or just something that may be of interest to you. So I know many of you work very closely with your General Assembly members, and they appreciate that very much. to hear information directly from our school districts. And then the other thing that was reported by Matt Ross, our Associate Commissioner of the Office of Finance and Operations, we are really pleased to be able to start to provide some procurement training at no cost and voluntary for your participation, just to make sure that everyone is aware of the very complicated sometimes maneuvering with procurement laws and purchasing. It keeps us all in a really good place. So Jennifer, do we have any questions in our Google form?
We do not, Commissioner. We're good.
Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us. Everyone stay warm and safe. Our next superintendent's webcast is February 13th of 2024, again at the 2 to 4 p.m. time. And I'm sure we'll have lots of additional information to share with you about the superintendent's, the commissioner search, and also about the Kentucky General Assembly. So thank you so much. We appreciate your time this afternoon, and have a good rest of your day.